Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador at KADY TV with another segment of Good Morning Oxnard. And I have to say that the spirit of KADY TV, we try not to do it bleeds, it leads, but things happen in our community, and we're not ignoring them. But what we want to really emphasize is, hey, what are we going to do about it? And introduce you to people who are stepping up and being part of the solution to the item. And so we have the good fortune of having Reverend Greg Runyan, who is an ordained minister, he's one of these people who's going to step up, and he's part of the solution along with a lot of other people that surround him. So would you tell us just a little bit about yourself? I think people would like to know that.
Sure. As he said, my name is Greg Runyan. I pastor Gold Coast Fellowship Church, which is just around the corner from us on 7th Street. I am a lifelong resident of California. I've lived here in Oxnard probably for close to 10 years. Yeah, I'm getting there. And have been very fortunate, though, to have lived a life that has had a few twists and turns. Grew up in the Bay Area in a home where my father was very involved politically. In fact, I tell people, because it's very interesting for this area, Dad was a city councilman in the 1976 election, which was when Jimmy Carter won the presidency. My little sister ended up playing with Amy Carter.
Oh, really?
A year or two later, yeah, they went to the zoo in San Francisco, and my sister famously told her, "I like your foreign accent." But we also were fortunate that I got to meet some other wonderful folks. Cesar Chavez
Beautiful man.
happened to attend. I had a 13th birthday that was a surprise party that was organized at a campaign event. And Cesar Chavez actually stayed and talked to me for probably 15 minutes. And it really was. And he said something to me that I'll share with you later on that really led to part of what we're trying to do and the reason that I'm here. So I was raised in a home that was on the outside very picket fencey, but we had some issues underneath that. Had a drinking problem that was pretty profound. Ended up costing him his council seat. He had a couple of events where he beat up some police officers because he was drunk. And then as a result of that, I rebelled a little bit and ended up with a substance abuse problem of my own. So make a long story shorter, ended up spending from 1989 to 2001. I spent 10 of those years in prison, getting released 5 times. So I was in and out of prison due to an addiction that in 2001 was fortunate to give my life to the Lord. And God changed not only my circumstance, He changed my life completely. I went back and graduated college, not even graduated high school. Was able to continue being married to the same woman, and we're going on 20 years, and that's a credit. It's a credit. Oh, congratulate me. You gotta condone her. She
condone.
Yeah, she needs, or whatever that word. She needs something, because that woman needs a lot of blessing.
You're the woman.
Yeah, she's put up with a lot, and she's a blessing. And but we are married today because of the patience she had with me when I was at my worst. My wife always would say something that she said, "I see something in you that you don't see in yourself."
Interesting.
And so we're going on 20 years. So,
well, good job. Took care of him.
Hey, Kevin.
You know, I just got to say, I relate to you, and it's just, I call it the ground zero experience. When, as a human being, you know, you've hit rock bottom, and I notice, I always like to say superheroes, but people who make a difference somehow always seem to start from that ground zero position and then really have an effect on society, on a community. And so you've really kind of sparked my interest in knowing, okay, you're here now, Greg, and I see you doing something, and without going into the different incidences in Oxnard, some bad things have happened.
Right.
And I want to talk about some of the things, you know, you have visions of doing, you know, hopes of doing. Can you talk to us about that just a bit?
Sure. You know, one of the things that was interesting is that when you do collaborative work,
right.
and I am a big believer that the traditional church, meaning the church that's in the four walls, that you go to church and then you leave it, and you leave the church there, I don't think that works. I think that faith needs to be lived, not taught. And for so many years in our country, we got very good at talking religion, but very poor at living it.
Implementation.
And so, ever since I've been in Oxnard, I've been involved in things like the Clergy Council. I've been involved in prisoner reentry. I actually worked for the city for 3 or 4 years. I had a contract helping other people who come out of prison. And so I've always tried to be collaborative. And what's happened recently as the result of, there was a rash of shootings. Many of them were gang involved. And so the police chief reached out to what's called her Chiefs Advisory Board, and some faith leaders, as well as other community leaders, and called us together to ask what could be done. And it was an interesting meeting. There were a lot of ideas shared. And I walked out of that meeting having suggested that we do a march, but really believing that that's all I was going to do. I'll make the suggestion, and somebody else can do it. And I was okay with that. I really was. And a couple of days later, though, I got a phone call from Dr. Frida Wiggins, who is a pastor. She goes to Evangelistic Missionary Baptist in Hueneme, and she's involved in what's called the healing room. She's a person who's very powerful in prayer. So she called me and said, I'm trying to put this coalition together. Would you host the event at your church? And I said, sure. And after that began, then the group asked me to facilitate. And so one of the reasons that I'm here today is that what we are trying to do is something on the 9th of this month, that's this Saturday, where we're going to meet at Colonial Park, Armonita, and we're just going to march to Plaza Park, and we're going to meet at 8 o'clock. We're going to try and get walking at about 8:30, maybe just a little later. And the reason for the march is because there's a lot of marches. People march for a lot of reasons. And they march in protest. They march in support. They march in statements. And I can tell you unequivocally that our group is a collaboration of not just churches, but of nonprofits, of concerned citizens, of all races, of all genders, of all ages. And we came together to try to say to the community, the issues that are in our community are not the fault of anyone but ourselves. And it's the idea of coming out of the ashes, the idea out of redemption, the idea out of the things that a lot of us like to hear. There always is a genesis that begins with a self-realization that, you know what, rather than being part of the problem, I can be part of the solution.
There you go.
So for many people, it happens because someone in their family, I was talking with someone just moments ago who said that in his family, there was somebody in his family that sparked in him a desire to do something different. In many of our lives, there's something in us, in my life. Just quickly,
sure.
My wife lost her eyesight, and she lost her eyesight because at one point she had an infection in her eye and I was too high to take her. And I wouldn't take her because I was on the run from the law and I didn't want to go to jail. So I passed out, and when I woke up her whole pupil was pus. And by the time we got her there, it was too late. I had to come to the realization that my actions of protecting myself hurt somebody else. So in our society, what I'm hoping for is that some of us will realize that our desire to protect ourselves is actually hurting our larger community and ourselves. So we're just asking for people to come together, and we'll see what happens after that. We do not have an agenda. We're not trying to say that the police are right, that a gang member is wrong, that the economics are contributing, even though they definitely are, to our crime rate. We are saying that all life matters. Mm-hmm. Your life matters. Mm-hmm. The cameraman's life matters. Mm-hmm. The people in the restaurant matter. Mm-hmm. The baby matters. The elderly folks matter. Every life has meaning, has value, and they matter. And until we put other people's lives on equal with mine, our society will not ever will not ever come to realize what some of us envision. Mm-hmm. And that is that we are a great community. Mm-hmm. We are a powerful community with powerful people. And so the message of our march really on the 9th is that all life matters. Mm-hmm. And so we're just asking that as many people as want to come. It's not an all-day event. We hope to walk there. We'll start a short program about 9:30, maybe just a little later. We have a couple of speakers from the community. Jackie Irwin, we've been told will be there. And we've invited our council members and our mayor to be there as well. And we invite the community just to come and walk with us, not as a statement of protest, but as a statement of promise in each other that all life matters.
You know, it's amazing as you talk, I realize the power of marches. And obviously there were some famous marches throughout history, but I just got to mention, for instance, Gideon's March, where God just cut the roster down to very few.
Right.
And I'm sure the crew was looking for weapons and guns, and they were handing out instruments.
Right.
The guy just said, just march. Right. And you know, there's something powerful about that. I just had to say that.
Well, let me tell you something funny that you just mentioned that. So I think you're saying Gideon, but I'm not going to correct you, but I think you meant Joshua.
Marching around the
marching around Jericho.
See, talking about moments,
That's okay, but it's all right. Gideon was cool too, because he's the guy who set out the fleece.
Okay,
all right, but we're good.
So the march, though,
Jericho. They walked around for 7 days. Yeah, and you know they did what I could never do. And that's why I was never asked to lead that march. They were quiet. I could never do that. But one of the things that it's come to us, and as we were trying to organize to get people together, someone told us that, why are you copying what other people have done? And I haven't had a chance to tell them, so I'll tell them if they're watching this. If we're going to talk about copying marches, then we have to go complain to Moses. Because Moses started the first ever march when he led the Jews out of Egypt.
Yeah.
We've been doing marches for freedom forever. And it's just what we do. And the reason is because it's such a powerful statement. People get tired of marching because they're tired of having their hopes dashed, in that they put their hopes in the march instead of the people in the march.
Right.
You know,
a good point.
We look at what Dr. King did, and you know, the most famous words that I remember is, I have a dream that one day men of all, remember? And it was men of all color will equally. And that dream didn't die because his words didn't die. But the spirit of those words lived in other people who heard them and carried them on. So we can't put our hope in results. I'm saying we have to put our hope in relationship. In the connection that happens, that when I'm walking, I stand next to somebody, correct, right. and we engage in conversation. And in order for us to have peace, to ask the government to solve that will be an exercise in futility, even though I know they're going to try and they're going to do their best. But you know, the years I spent in prison, the one thing that I learned above all things was, one, when I was in prison, I was not a gangbanger. I made a collective choice not to join the Aryan Brotherhood, or what was called the Nazi lowriders and things, and I got in fights over it. My own race attacked me because I didn't align with them. And I told them very clearly, and I would tell anybody now, my people are my family, and those that love me. And whatever race that is, whatever gender that is, those are my people. And for too long we've looked at people and judged them by the color of their skin. Cesar Chavez when I was 13 years old. And of all the funny things you can remember, my dad was in politics, and I kind of thought I was smart. So I asked him, how did he feel about white people? Because I knew that in the marches he did, in the movement that he was part of, they were, to me at 13, well, you're angry at white people. Because, you know, white people on the farms and white people. He told me, mijo, he said, mijo, you cannot tell the character of a man's heart by the color of his skin.
And I'll tell you, I think that's a good way to wrap up.
So,
I've been saying this a lot, it's always sad to have to end things that can go on and so many things, but I want to say this is someone who is stepping up and is part of the solution to all the things that are happening in our community. So I hope you will join the march, and I want to thank you, and I will brush up on my characters.
Good. Now, I just want to give you 10 seconds just to say that I am one of many that is involved in this, and I am not the leader, but I have been privileged to have been asked to do a lot of the speaking and things like that. But there are many in our community that are as actively involved as myself.
And you just happen to be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
This is Peter Godinez from KDY TV. Until next time.